I saw the film, and I was surprised at how much the film was kind of about the restoration processes that they do at the museum. I mean, it's about a lot of things at the museum, but that's what I got the most out of it. What did you take away from making this film, having made so many kind of institutional films?
Well, I mean, the real answer to that question is what you see in the film. But I think restoration is one of the issues, but I don't, as far as I'm concerned, that's not the principle. The principal one has to do with the nature of painting and painting in comparison with other forms.
Have you visited the museum a lot over the years prior to doing this?
Yeah, but as a, just as a tourist visitor.
Right. Are you like an avid painting historian? Or?
No, not at all. Not at all. I know something about painting, and I had the usual art history courses. I'm a regular museum goer wherever I happen to be living.
How did you end up settling on the National Gallery in London?
Because I got permission. I wanted to do a museum, and that's one reason, and equally important reason, it's got one of the great collections of the world. I wouldn't have done any museum that gave me permission. It has one of the best collections of paintings in the world, and it's, compared to other great museums, it's small. It has 2,400 paintings. It has no sculpture, no other art objects, and I don't know how many works of art the Louvre has, which include painting, sculpture, vases, jewelry, blah, blah, blah. The Louvre probably has 75 or 100,000. Similarly to the Met. So it was small enough so I could feel that I could get a sense of what was going on.
Now, despite having all of that in its collection, I felt like the majority of what you chose to show was representational paintings. Was that something you were conscious of?
Well, they don't have 20th century art there.
Right. But,
so everything there is representational.
I didn't see a lot of sculpture. And there was sculpture. One conversation about sculpture.
But there is no sculpture.
Oh, there's none in the museum.
No.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't sure because I haven't been there myself. You did show a lot of the events that go on there, though.
A lot of
the events, like there's dance events and
no dance events.
Well, there was the one ballet
scene, but that was because the choreographer who you see in an earlier scene, 3 choreographers were commissioned by the National Gallery and the Royal Ballet to do 3 short ballets about Titian, which they presented at the Royal Opera House. And one of the choreographers wanted to have the dancers rehearse in front of the Titians. So that's why that seems.
Another thing I kind of took away with it was that the way the curators talk about the art and the tour guides talk about the art, they almost use the art as an oral history of just normal history, not just about the paintings, but the history behind the paintings, and the stories
provide a
behind
context for the viewer that doesn't know anything about the time at which the painting was made. They provide a context for the painting.
Right.
I mean, these are most of the people you heard in the public tours of the gallery were art educators who were there to talk about the paintings to people who may not have had much knowledge of painting.
Right. Is that? I felt like that was something that kept coming up, though, especially at the very end when you have the montage of the artists. Was that what? I mean, what was the choice to end the film with that?
Oh, they're all Rembrandt paintings.
Oh, were they all Rembrandt?
Yeah, and they showed people at different ages, young, middle-aged, old, young.
The choice to show them growing in age, I almost felt like that was like riffing on that oral history, kind of documenting time through art.
Yeah, I mean, the way the human face is documented, how people grow old.
Why did you choose to end the film with that sequence?
Well, because I think all of the film is concerned with a grand variety of major human experiences as they're illustrated in the paintings. And Rembrandt is one of the great artists, and you see in that series of shots of paintings by Rembrandt, people of various ages, some sense of the course of life.
Now, again, the film documents in segments the restoration process. Have you yourself actually done any of the restoration process on the film side of things with your own films?
No, not yet. I have to, but I haven't.
Have you actually started working on that at all?
Well, I've started thinking about it. I mean, it requires a lot of money. I mean, all my films are stored in very, proper conditions. And for each film, I have the original A and B negative, the internegative, and I have the fine grain master and the duplicate negative. I'm well protected. But for some of the films are more than 40 years old.
Right. And I mean, there's tons of restoration going on now, and you see it.
It's very expensive.
Right.
I've got to find the money. I mean, I don't have the money to do it myself.
I know you own all the rights to your own films, and you distribute your films yourself. Are you looking at different ways of distributing via the internet in any way?
Not via the internet.
Well, streaming services and stuff like that?
I'm beginning to talk to streaming services.
Really?
Yeah, but I haven't settled on it.
I'm curious if you have watched any other films about museums or about museums before doing this one. No. Has anyone asked you about seeing Museum Hours?
I don't know what's Museum Hours.
Museum Hours is a film by Jem Cohen. It came out.
Somebody mentioned it yesterday, but I never heard of it.
It came out a couple years ago. It's about the Hermitage Museum in Russia. I was just curious to see if you had seen it because it deals with similar ideas about how people take in art and how they interact with art within a museum setting. And it's just kind of similar. I was curious to see if you saw it, but I would recommend it if you haven't seen it.
Is he an American or?
I think he is. If he's not American, he might be British. But I am. Don't quote me on that.
What's it called? Museum Hours.
It's called Museum Hours. It's kind of a docu-fiction because he is in the museum documenting what's happening there, but then there's a narrative that goes weaving in between the documentary portions of it.
I'll look for it.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's good. Another thing that comes out in the film is that there is actually interviews in the film, which I know they weren't conducted by you, and you don't do interviews within films, but you kind of rope in this other crew of people who are doing interviews. How did that come about in the film?
Well, because those were some of the activities that were taking place in the museum. I saw them and got permission to shoot them. And they're interesting from a variety of points of view. Shows a different style of filmmaking. It's a way of, I was able to use some of the information that was coming out in the interviews. I thought it was useful for my film.
Was it an actual documentary crew that was making a film?
There were several crews there, BBC crews mainly, who were making films about. One film was about the Turner. Another film was about. I had to one
The
film had to do with
Leonardo thing?
No, there was a film being made about the end of the Leonardo show, and another film being made about the Turner show.
Was the Leonardo show just a temporary exhibit that was visiting?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a permanent exhibit.
No, it's not a permanent. It was an exhibit where a lot of the drawings and paintings came from other museums.
Right. Okay. There is also this kind of call and response editing that happens throughout the film, especially when there is a tour group or a specific presentation about a piece where the person will be speaking and you'll cut in between them speaking and certain portions of the painting that is being talked about.
Yeah, right.
Can you just talk a little bit about piecing those sequences together? And
well, because the words that the tour guides are using have much more meaning if you see what they're talking about.
That's true. That's true. I really liked the sequence about I can't remember the artist, but they had this massive painting of a guy on a horse, and then they X-rayed it. It's another Rembrandt. Okay. They X-rayed the piece.
Right.
Did you have any trouble with being in the museum and getting in the behind-the-scenes portions of the museum for restoration?
I mean, that was
stuff like that.
You know, when they gave me permission, to
do anything. What was the process of getting permission to go in the museum?
Asking.
And that it was as simple as that. You just asked.
I just asked, and they said yes.
Wow.
That's my big secret.
The film was actually shot, like 2 years ago at this point?
2012. The winter, January, February, and March of 2012.
You kind of get a sense of that because they're talking about budgets for a specific year. What was the editing length of time for this film? I know you often spend
about 13 months.
13 months. And you just edit alone, right?
Well, this film I had an assistant because I was editing digitally.
Oh.
And usually all the other films, well, with one other exception, I've edited, I've edited on film, and I edited on film, I edited alone. When I edited digitally, I had an assistant.
Okay. You also had a cameraman on this film, right?
I always had a cameraman.
What is your relationship with your cameraman when you're directing? I mean, obviously you can't really speak with the person while you're shooting.
I'm doing sound, and I select what's going to be shot. We're constantly looking at each other, and we work together a lot. So we have signals that we use between us and looks that we have.
Are there any films you're currently working on?
No, I'm thinking about doing another one. I've done some tests for it, but nothing I want to talk about yet.
All right. Well, I think that's all I have for you.
Okay, good.